a partner's auto-generated Python client broke with duplicate function definition errors. The root cause? Two endpoints sharing the same function name, getItem, produced duplicate operationId values in the OpenAPI schema. Let's break down FastAPI OpenAPI customization, tags, examples, and schema, how it works, and the exact mistake behind that failure. FastAPI OpenAPI customization lets you control how your API appears in auto-generated docs and client SDKs. Tags group endpoints, examples show realistic payloads, and schema customization ensures accurate type descriptions. Tags are not just for grouping endpoints in Swagger UI. They determine how client SDKs organize methods. Without tags, every endpoint goes into a default bucket, a nightmare for anyone consuming your API. Here we define a router with the user's tag. All endpoints in this router will appear under that tag in the docs. Examples are the single most impactful customization you can make. They show client developers exactly what your API expects, preventing guesswork and integration issues. Here we define a model with field-level examples and a request body with multiple examples using OpenAPI examples. Swagger UI will show a drop-down with these examples. Sometimes you need to override or extend the schema. Use Schema Extra in the model's config class or JSON schema extra on individual fields to add custom attributes like format or example. This model adds a format int64 to the id field and a model-level example. The generated OpenAPI schema will include these customizations. By default, FastAPI generates operation IDs from the function name and path. Override them with operationId to ensure clean, predictable method names in generated SDKs. Here we set explicit operation IDs. The OpenAPI spec will have operationId, users list, and users create, making the software development kit methods clean. You can customize top-level metadata like title, version, and contact. Use OpenAPI tags to add descriptions to tag groups, but remember to also add tags to your roots. This example sets metadata and tag descriptions. Note that both OpenAPI tags and tags on roots are required for descriptions to appear. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. Two endpoints in different routers had the same function name, getItem. FastAPI auto-generated operation IDs from the function name, resulting in duplicate operationId values. Code generators used that as the method name, causing a compile error. Two endpoints in different routers had the same function name, getItem, causing duplicate operationId in OpenAPI schema. The generated Python client produced duplicate function definition errors and became uncompilable. The fix was to add explicit operationId parameters to all endpoint decorators, ensuring unique names. We also added a CI check that validates no duplicate operationId values exist in the generated OpenAPI schema. If two endpoints have the same function name, FastAPI generates duplicate operation IDs. Always set explicit operationId to avoid this. When you set both field-level examples and parameter-level OpenAPI examples, both appear in the schema. This can confuse client developers who see two different examples. If you set OpenAPI tags but forget to add tags to your roots, the tag descriptions won't show in Swagger UI. Both are required. The article mentions JSON schema extra for per-field overrides, but FastAPI also supports OpenAPI extra on path operations to inject arbitrary OpenAPI fields, e.g., deprecated, security, or external docs. This is useful for adding metadata that Pydantic models don't cover. In Pydantic v2, schema extra in config is deprecated. Use JSON schema extra at the model level via model config. FastAPI v0 100+ supports Pydantic v2. If you're using Pydantic v1, stick with schema extra. Check your Pydantic version to avoid silent schema generation failures. The article warns about duplicate operation IDs, but doesn't show a concrete CI check. Here's a script that validates uniqueness and fails the build if duplicates are found. Integrate this into your CI pipeline to catch regressions early. Use curl to inspect the raw OpenAPI spec. Validate with OpenAPI Spec Validator and add CI checks to catch regressions. The code snippet shows how to check for duplicate operation IDs. Let's run through some common interview questions. How does FastAPI generate operation IDs? From function name and path, override with operationId. When use OpenAPI examples versus field, example equals. OpenAPI examples for multiple payloads, field for single. What if both set? Both appear. Parameter level takes precedence in Swagger UI. And a few frequently asked questions. How to add examples to request body. Use OpenAPI examples on body or query. Difference between tags and OpenAPI tags. Tags assigned to routes. OpenAPI tags adds descriptions. Can I override schema without affecting validation? Yes, use schema extra or JSON schema extra. To recap, tags organize your endpoints, examples prevent integration issues, and explicit operation IDs ensure clean SDKs. Always test your OpenAPI spec to catch regressions. Ready to go deeper? Up next, FastAPI lifespan events, then FastAPI streaming responses and file responses, then FastAPI async SQL alchemy. Find them all at TheCodeForge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at TheCodeForge.io.